John, you and I met you. I met you playing. Of course, I was in the band Fair Trade at the time in Sacramento, and we needed a drummer forever, and we were auditioning guys all over the place. And then a buddy in the band said, "Hey, I know this guy John that used to play in high school and everything." And we had gone through all these auditions that just weren't there. We're looking for that next level. And then John comes in. After not playing your drums for 7 years or something?
About 7 years, and not playing.
Not playing, comes in and just nails the audition. It's like, okay, this guy.
It's like riding a bike, right?
He's the guy. Yeah. So okay, this guy had the feel, everything, and then that band kind of had its time, and it was time for me to move on, and I definitely wanted to keep John on board if he wanted to, join me, and he did. So, once John got in the band, we started practicing the same songs over and over again, and searching for bassists and keyboardists, and then
and other folks too. If it was going to work, we were going to go with it. We have a conga player. Came out. We had a couple keyboardists, a couple different people coming out with the guitarists even, considered that. So
and then we got Jameson come in, and poor Jameson, we had him audition like 10 times before.
It was on the fourth. That's when I was given the offer of a position in the group, and I guess it made sense because you guys were looking at me like, this guy's got the potential, but where he is right now, he's very basic. And then I noticed that once I was integrated in the group, it just seemed like fireworks. It's like all this raw bass talent that it just was so much easier to develop in this band than any time in the past.
Well, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, Jameson, you're 2 to 3 times the player you were now than when you first started. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think you improved a ton by the time we got John in the band. Just because, and the thing about you that I really dig is your homework, man. I mean, you come, I count on you as like, you're always there. You know what I mean? You know the parts, you remember the parts, you're kind of half robot in that sense. Not in a bad way robot, but like, you know what I mean? Like, Jameson, how did we do this last week? Well, we did. You know what I mean? Yeah. He knows exactly how many beats per minute we need. Yeah. But no, it's essential. You bring. That's a good thing that you bring to the table.
And a lot of our decision too was based on whether we felt like you were really going to put the effort in, and you were going to be pushing forward. And as soon as we had met you the first time, that was the feel we got. And then after the second time, it's like, wow, this guy did his homework. He's he's on it. So that's half the battle. Musicians, let's face it, we're flaky in general usually. Well, usually the typical musician, and if you can get some people that are quality, that want to put the work in, and they're professional about their ideas and where they want to go, and they have goals, that's huge.
Yeah. And I actually did give him homework.
Yes. I did give him homework.
I mean, but that's good. That's good. I actually gave him homework. But yeah, really proud.
See, that laid the foundation for me, because I came in basically under the same auspices, right? Kind of a simple player, don't play licks. Like to play originals if I kind of feel a vibe in the music, which I did. Kind of develop in my own way. And then the nice thing for me is you hadn't had a keyboard player before, even though Quinn plays keyboards a little bit. I was kind of left to do whatever I wanted to do. When something sounded good, you'd say, yeah, do more of that, do less of that.
Yeah.
So when you have that all open and can pretty much do anything, that's a real freeing place. So, but I'm the same as Jameson, right? I dug the music and wanted to perform and get out and get better. And I was given the opportunity to do that in this band, so that worked great.
No, and that's the same thing with you too, John, that I noticed was just a natural feel for the stuff. And what I really dug about you joining the band is you have that music theory knowledge, you know what I mean? And you have a very good voice that, you know, that I think blends well with mine. And where Jameson comes in and brings some ideas to the table. I mean, compositionally, John brings a lot of very cool ideas. I mean, that part in "By Your Side," all John, and that was phenomenal idea. I just remember when he told me that, I was like, yeah, you know, let's make it work. Or this is the guy I need to count on when, you know what, I think, you know, maybe a modulation needs to happen here, or, you know, hits, Tipsy Pig, we're playing, something needs to happen in this, you know, third verse. Boom. Now we made a little...
Well, it's a fresh set of ears, right?
It's a fresh set of ears.
It's had the songs for a long time inside, then they come out and you try to do them as a three-piece, and then keyboards and rather guitar or strings or horns or whatever get you kind of thinking about it a little different way. So,
well, what's kind of cool about you, Quinn, as an artist is that, you know, you're putting these songs together and you're composing them, and you got this idea in your head of where you want to go with it, and then you actually allow us enough, you know, leeway to say, hey, what do you think about this, or can we maybe do something different here? And you allow that to happen, and that's where the kind of the you know, the collaboration really starts to work, you know, when we can give you ideas and you kind of just say, yeah, you know, I know it's my tune, but let's go with it. Let's try this. And then you know, every once in a while we get lucky and something works.
And I think these songs are always going to evolve too. I mean, we've been playing, you know, Not This Time for ages, and then 2 weeks ago we come up with a new part for it. It's like,
that's true.
It makes it fresh, you know.
It feels like a brand new song now. I mean, it feels really well structured from beginning to end. It went from being in the beginning kind of it was a filler. Now we're like, it's a blast. We love it.
Yeah, well, that's what's starting to happen. These songs are starting to all come to life like what they were for, like By Your Side or like Over, where we spent a lot of time. We got the arrangement down. Each and every one of these songs are starting to get to that point. So it's really a cool thing. I've never really experienced it on this level with a band, and you know, I think it's rad.
You know, I was in middle school. I was about 12 years old, and it was real spontaneous. I just started listening to music. I didn't listen to music at all before that.
Wait,
when what?
You're 12? You haven't heard music?
No, I never listened to anything. Like, I never had any CDs, no cassettes, nothing. And then I just kind of thought, I heard just like a couple songs on the radio. It was like, you know, 90s alternative. And then I just...
You never listened to any music?
No.
You were 12 years old?
Yeah, it's true.
Whoa.
I didn't have anything.
Mighty Mouse, Barbra Streisand, nothing.
I heard music, but I didn't have any CDs. Like I said, I didn't actively listen to any music.
So your radio, always talk radio?
No, I never listened to radio.
Dude, are you wrong?
No, it was just I had no interest. But I listened to a couple groups. It was like
groups?
It was like 311.
When you're 12.
Yeah.
What year would that have been?
95.
Did your parents listen to music?
No, not really.
That's a big part.
My parents had no musical background ever.
Wow.
And
you didn't hear a song until you were 12 years old?
I heard songs.
He didn't buy a song.
But I didn't.
Weren't into it.
Yeah, I was not into music at all.
I got you.
And so...
just didn't strike a chord with you.
Apparently. So it was real spontaneous. I said, Mom, can I have a guitar? And next thing you know, for that next birthday, I had like a really inexpensive guitar, and that's where I started. I played guitar for about from the time I was 12 to the time I was 17. I also played drums during that time as well, and it was all, you know, I was always a drummer in the group until I picked up bass, and then once I picked up bass when I was about 17, it's kind of like I never looked back. That was all the gigs, all the bands I played in. They always wanted me to play bass guitar, and it just kind of evolved from there. You know, I still play the other instruments, but realistically, I found my home on that instrument, and it just it'll blossom from there. And that's really just how I got started.
So when you started picking up the bass and realized, hey, this is my ticket, this is what calls to me, what other bassists did you hear?
This is gonna sound a little weird, but it was the group Suicidal Tendencies, and it was specifically a bass player named Josh Paul. And Josh Paul was one of the first bass players I heard where he was playing like a hard rock, but he integrated a lot of funk, slap, and a lot of groove in there. And he didn't have...
Was that the guy that went on to join Metallica? Or was
no, that was another guy. That was Raw Trio. Actually, believe it or not, Josh Paul plays for Chris Daughtry now.
Okay.
So he has a pretty well dynamic because the music Daughtry plays sounds nothing like Suicidal Tendencies. But that bass player, I was listening to him, I was like, I like that style. Mm-hmm. It fits, but it doesn't. It shouldn't. And I was thinking, well, that's a good way to model yourself. You fit, but you sound unique.
Yeah.
So that's what I wanted to model myself for. Not necessarily the style, but just what he brought to the band. That's what I wanted to bring to a band.
When I was 2, no, I'm just kidding.
You heard music for the first time when you were in high school, but when did you tell me a little bit about when you started on the drums?
My dad was like a musician for years. He played with the symphony. He played with all the big shows that came to town, like Bob Hope and Mitzi Gaynor and Vicky Carr and all these like old school folks. And so there was always music in the house, whether he was like practicing or whatever. But they had like this huge like collection of albums, and so I could just start picking out covers I thought were cool looking, and start listening to all different types of music. So I was listening to everything from like Glenn Campbell to the Fifth Dimension. So I was listening to like R&B and Captain and Tennille, and so I had this like just this huge collection of music where I could just listen to whatever I wanted, and it wasn't just because it was popular or on the radio. It was just whatever I felt like I wanted to hear. And so I started picking up on a lot of different styles early on. So I was like I was probably like 9 years old when I got my first drum set, beyond the cardboard Quaker Oats boxes and stuff. And so when I was 9, I just started like playing along with all the albums that I had listened to and listening to the radio. And so next thing you know, I'm playing in all the school bands and whatnot. And in high school, we started doing Dixieland Jubilee. So I did Dixieland music for the longest time, and we played the big festival in Old Sac and whatnot. And went from that to... I'm still in high school, like a sophomore, and the band director was a musician too. His brother was a bass player, and they played in a bar. And he's like, what, we need a drummer. And he's like, and I know you can play it. So he says, do you want to play a gig at a bar? I'm like, yeah, that's cool. So
how old were you then?
I was like 16.
Yeah.
So I'm playing at a bar at 16 and playing just the Creedence Clearwater stuff, and it was a kick. I got to tell you, And then after that, I got into salsa groups. So I'm playing like salsa and a bunch of different like Latin rhythms like merengue and ranchetas and kind of things like that at another complete dive bars and stuff like it's a weird upbringing from Dixieland to salsa, and then straight from that into like 50s 60s rock and roll. We're playing Chicago and the Tubes and just Earth, Wind and Fire. Went from that to R&B. I played R&B groups and a lot of old school. And then went into smooth jazz. And smooth jazz, we rode that for a long time, playing every Friday and Saturday for like 5 years, and that was cool. So got to play a lot of festivals and play with a lot of pros. It was amazing. Our sax player played with the Whispers, and he knew Jimmy Smith, who's a famous jazz organist. And next thing you know, we're playing a gig, and there's Jimmy Smith shows up, and he's like, "Hey, can I sit in?" And we're like, "Okay, yeah." So here I am. I'm like, played with Jimmy Smith. He's like a legend, and then we're in another like R&B old school kind of a bar down off of Stockton Boulevard, and all of a sudden all these girls in the audience are like, wow, and they're like looking toward the door, and we're like, what's going on over there? And finally the guitar player leans over and he goes, the guy from Tony series, I think that's Raphael Sadiq. So we're playing along, and next thing you know, Raphael Sadiq comes up and he goes, "Hey, can I sit in with you guys? I'm really digging what you're doing." So next thing you know, we're playing with him. And he's like, "I really dig what you guys are doing." So it's been a cool journey from Dixieland to playing in bars and clubs, and then doing all the different styles of music to here.
Me, kind of like you, when I was a kid, my parents just had kind of great taste in music, from my opinion. My dad was a gigging musician, and his brother was a gigging musician that lived 15 miles away, so and his son, my cousins, everybody sang in my family. And so it was cool seeing them out performing and everything. And I just sang when I was a kid, and then took piano lessons that didn't really speak to me, took trumpet lessons, didn't really speak to me, picked up the bass a little bit, didn't really speak to me. And then when I was about 15, I picked up a guitar, and I was like, this is it. I remember I heard, there was a Nirvana song on, and it sounded simple, and I just picked out like little notes, the bass notes, just on the low E string. I was like, dude, if I can do this, why can't I want to see where this goes. So just kept on learning some easy stuff. I was big into, when I was a kid, listening to my parents' records. The sound that really captured me was that hard rock blues sound, that Jimmy Page sound, that Jimi Hendrix sound, that Eric Clapton sound, that minor pentatonic blues kind of, it just spoke to me, it had heart, you could feel the soul. And I never thought to myself, I want to be a rhythm guitarist. I always wanted to play lead. That was like, I want to do what they're doing. So I used to listen to all those records all the time. I remember listening to like Stairway to Heaven and Here Comes the Sun over and over again, trying to write down the lyrics to the song, and on record you got to pick the thing up, put it back. Yeah. What does he say? I don't get it. Listen to it again. I don't get it. Listen to it again. So, that was cool. And then I picked up guitar, and I learned the first full song I learned how to play was "Wish You Were Here" by Pink Floyd, because I was also heavily influenced by David Gilmour's playing and everything. So I played "Wish You Were Here" about 6 months after I started playing guitar. I played that song for my high school talent show. I think it was a sophomore in high school. Me and another beginner guitarist, we got up there and I sang it and played. And I'm sure it was horrible, but we got through it. I played the little lead part in there, and I'm sure it was terrible, but got through it. And when it was done, you heard that applause. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, this is pretty cool. Then played the first bar I played in I was 18. It was right before I moved out to California, and played a few songs, and it was just that rush, of being on stage, of singing a song in front of people, and it was great. So I came out here to California, went to college, didn't know what I wanted to major in. and I didn't really want to major in music because I didn't want it to become a chore. You know, I didn't want to lose this passion I had for it because I was never really a great student, you know what I mean? But, you know, music things. But as time went on, it was like, this is the only thing that, you know, kind of moves me, so I went with it. I started writing, actually, songs when I was about 18, a couple years after I started playing. And, of course, the first few songs you write, you know, they're not, you know, that great, but you got to start somewhere, you know. So one of my dreams, one of my goals, you know, put out an album, you know, of all original music. And I started writing when I was 18, and I released my first record in 2006, I think, but it was of songs that I'd written from, you know, the end of high school to then. So it was kind of like a compilation. And songwriting is just it's a crazy process. I don't even know if it is a process. Sometimes a melody just comes to you. I mean, I don't know how many times. More
experience.
You know, well, yeah, I guess sometimes the first line of a lyric comes to me, and I was like, "Ooh, let me try this." Sometimes just I get this melody in my head, and I got to work it out. You know, luckily phones nowadays have voice recorders, so you know, if I get an idea, I can just get on my phone and sing a little melody, and later on, it's like I got to put that somewhere. So I don't know how many songs that I've lost because, you know, I mean, it happens to everybody.
Yeah, I'm kind of a late bloomer, came to music late. I actually didn't pick up an instrument and sit and woodshed it, sit in my bedroom and learn parts until I was 18 or 19. We lived in an apartment, couldn't have a piano, things like that. I basically got a guitar and wanted to play pop songs, wanted to play Led Zeppelin songs, Neil Young. Bought a cheap Ovation guitar and basically went down to the mall and took some guitar lessons and thought, this is pretty cool. You can actually listen to something like you were doing, figure it out, and get the majority of it. Maybe not 100% of it.
Yeah.
And of course, people like me that were doing that kind of thing, you almost always figure out the guitar part, but you never sing along with it, and I never really did either. So I went through some things and decided, well, what if I try the music department at the University of Utah? I think the day before that I had done an audition to get into the theater department, went very poorly. You know, either I left the stage crying or whatever it was. And the next day enrolled in the music department and thought, you know, at least the music thing seems more real to me. I'm not playing a character. I'm just going to learn the technical aspects of what's going on and let whatever's in me come out. So I was up at the University of Utah 1.5 to 2 years as a classical guitar major, learning composition, learning music theory, both jazz and classical theory, music history, and that kind of a immersion actually made up for the fact that I came to it kind of late. Because at that point I had some group piano lessons. That was part of the curriculum. You take a year of group piano so that you can basically apply the theory you're learning to everything you're doing, whether you're a guitarist or a flute player or whatever. And I just started to feel like I had a knack for using my ear to figure out the harmonies. And some of the you know, one of the first assignments they gave us was harmonization of Happy Birthday to You, and I ended up playing it in a minor key, which to me I thought was pretty cool because I could figure out how to do that, and it was all theoretical, but it sounded kind of distant and a little, you know. So that's kind of approach that's basically taken me up to here, you know, 30 years later, is kind of a theoretical approach, a harmonic approach to taking what I hear in my head and converting it to whether it's guitar or keyboards. I was a classical guitar major for 2 years, played guitar for years. Seems like when I'm playing guitar, I don't play keyboards, so I might go 5 to 10 years just playing some form of guitar, not playing any keyboards, and then I'm back to really not playing much guitar. I'm back to keyboards. I like acoustic piano sounds. It's kind of like y'all. I had records of all sorts that I was exposed to as a kid, from Herb Alpert to Barbra Streisand to, a lot of soundtracks from Broadway shows, West Side Story. I remember one of the ones that really hit me hard at first was Elvis Live at the International Hotel in 1969, right? He had TCB, had Taking Care of Business, and it just had this unbelievable bass player. Basically, unbelievable band, but the bass player I just really loved. The guitarist I loved, all the horns, the inspiration, singing, and the Elvis thing didn't draw me in other than the fact he was an entertainer, but it was like the backing stuff. So I haven't really been in tons of bands. I wasn't in bands through high school. I wasn't in bands after that. My total, performances before I joined this band was probably less than 100. But I've always been more of, like you say, I've written a lot of stuff and a lot of what I call little ditties, just chordal progressions, things that would help another artist when you have songs that you're just trying to add little pieces to, or modulations, or, I have a certain way I approach it, how a melody goes to a certain point. And the thing that's been good for me in this band is obviously the reason I joined. Not only did I kind of dig what was going on with the music, but I wanted to become a better player. And you can only be, a legend in your own bedroom so long, right? You get out and play and this and that, and you realize, well, here's how I'm really going to get better. I need to play with other people. I need to play the kind of music that I want to play. Could I get better playing covers every weekend, 2 weekend nights? Maybe, but the kind of better I wanted to get was songwriting better, a project that was different, that, where we don't play any covers. That actually, even though we can't perform as often, those performances mean more to me because we basically brought everything into that, from the nucleus of the song to all arrangement ideas, and that's meant more to me than playing cover bands every night, even though that's another way to go. Since I got in on it late, I don't have the luxury of doing that for 5 or 10 years to get up to where I want to be. So,
got a question from behind the camera.
Yes.
How's it feel to have played Harlow's?
Harlow's, that was, Harlow's was one of my big goals with Sacramento. And it was great playing Harlow's because, like we had talked about before, I'd never played on a stage that had a fog machine going. You know what I mean? Or lights going to like stuff that, the guy doing the sound and the lights, he never heard our music before, and yet there's some cool stuff going. Yeah, man. Yeah. So it was a great first experience, and the thing I liked about it the most was just how we all, as a band, rose to the occasion, and that's what I'm stoked on.
Well, we'd done the KCRA thing. Was it the morning?
Was the morning before.
Friday morning.
Yeah.
We did Harlow's on Saturday.
And we were ready for that, too.
Yeah.
We upped our game. And, great experience.
Harlow's was cool. I was just happy to have not had anything fall off of the drum riser. Because I don't know if you remember, but there was like this little drum riser. It probably is, a good size, but my set's pretty big. And I remember like my stands were like about a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch from the edge of the riser. And I thought, man, when I'm playing and if something like vibrates, this stuff's going to topple. But made it through. So nice. I don't know how, but that was cool. At least, as long as I didn't fall off, I was going to be okay with it,
Right on.
I could do without a cymbal or something, but that was sketchy, but you know what? We made it, and we had a fog machine.
The fog machine was
the coolest thing ever.
We had a really good turnout, too, that night.
Yeah, absolutely.
We were kind of lucky to get on the bill in the first place, and I think we really made the best of it.
Well, and you bring up a good point. It wasn't our first gig, but it was the first gig that KCRA, notwithstanding, we kind of rose to the occasion and went to a different place with it, where the expectations are whatever they are, but we had expectations of ourselves, and I think that's why we all felt good about it, is
Yeah.
that we all came through and played to our best ability that night. And I thought it was a great feeling.
Yeah, I mean,
Good venue, great venue.
sound. That place will make you look and sound like a rock star. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
But it was over like that. We started. You counted us in for By Your Side, and then it seemed like we were already to the last song.
Yeah, it went by quick, but it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. I was proud of you guys that night. That we really, stepped up our game, and we'll be doing it again here pretty soon. So
tell us more about that.
Well, hopefully we'll be back again shortly, and hopefully we'll step up our game again. And
as we always do.
As we always do for the big ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.